our CEO, and we're coming out live from San Jose, California, from Theta headquarters, and really excited for everyone's questions live. Got a lot of great ones submitted throughout the week, and I know a lot of people joining live with all their pressing questions too, so looking forward to getting right into it. We can start picking some live questions or kick off with some we've collected this week. Mitch, what do you think?
I don't know. Let's go to some live questions. Hey guys.
All right.
How are you in an elevator?
Oh, we're all friend new. Elevator. No, this is actually our postmodern office conference room. This is where we usually film live Theta streams from. So yeah, same place you recognize, just our cool Theta gear is over on this side now. Yeah.
All right, Lady Rebel.
Yeah, hey everyone. David Theta, what's up? Win Binance. Oh, God, you guys are bringing me back. Our favorite question from all the past AMAs. I don't even know what Binance thing we're supposed to be getting now. It's always something Win Binance. Yeah. Win Binance US. Oh, see, there's always,
okay.
We've always got something with Binance coming up.
There you go. So that's a good question. So as you all know, we've been working with Binance for a long time now. And it's not a secret. Binance US, has us, listed as one of the projects that they're evaluating.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably the most we can talk about now. But we're super excited, to continue working with them and everything else that we're working on.
Yeah. You knew that was all you were going to get. We're never going to be able to drop something about them, but we are excited to keep working with them, and we'll keep going on that front.
That's right. So 2 smiley faces from me, as you guys know, from Telegram, but no pre-announcements of announcements. That's not how we do it here. But having said that, we do have some pretty exciting news we want to share and some new insights we want to share with you today.
Yeah, that's right. Why don't we talk about? I think we can touch on some of that in the first question, a great one we got this week. Someone asked about if we can discuss our governance model, timeline for implementation, who the current validators are, that kind of thing. I think it'd be good to start with an overview on that, just because I know there's a lot of new folks in the Theta community who maybe don't have all the history of that. So the Theta's governance, you can think of it as 2 parts of it. There's the validator nodes, which we run some of these at Theta Labs here and around the world in various cloud instances. Our enterprise partners that also run validator nodes. And then the second half of that is the Theta community running Guardian nodes. So that's been a really exciting thing seeing the last couple months as they've finally been on testnet and everyone's worked through a lot of the getting those implemented, giving great feedback to our team, and there's about 300 running now all over the world on Theta testnet, scaling up quickly. We're looking to add even more coming soon on this new testnet, and it all looks great for launching at end of Q1 here to have the Guardian nodes live on our mainnet. So you can see that kind of gives us a real balanced implementation of governance where some of it comes from Theta Labs as the creators of the protocol. Some of it's our validator partners, which we can talk a little bit more about in a second. And then a big chunk of it is you guys, which is great. We're really focusing on decentralizing governance away from Theta Labs as the year goes on. That's important for a lot of reasons, but most importantly, just so that new users or platforms going onto the network know that there's a lot of different stakeholders with a say in this. There's no one group running it. It's not Ian, Mitch, and JE just calling the shots here. It's a whole little accountability among these different stakeholders. I know a lot of the exciting part for the community is they care about the validator nodes they're running on it. So you can kind of give a breakdown of each of these and why we are excited about them coming on to
Sure.
Theta Network.
Yeah. So some of you have been following us. Back in August, September of this past year, we launched our first validator node with blockchain.com, Blockchain Ventures. So a little bit of background about them. It's kind of interesting. I think not many of you kind of know the context and how we started working with them. So originally started, I met Sam Harrison, who's the general partner over at Blockchain Ventures when he was previously at Naspers, and some of you may have heard of Naspers. Most of you probably haven't. I never heard of Naspers before I met with them. But it turns out that they were one of the most successful investment firms that nobody's ever heard of.
Yeah.
They apparently put in the early 2001, I think it was maybe tens of millions of dollars into a small company back then, unknown company called Tencent,
Right.
and they got something like 40% of the company, and that ballooned to be worth hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah,
So
it's still actually, I think, the most successful single venture investment of all time.
yeah, absolutely incredible story there. And so Sam was working with them. This was about the same time that we were doing our Series A financing in the early part of 2017. And we ended up working with DHVC, which, as some of you may know, W. Wen, who was a partner at the time there. We ended up working with them and not with Naspers. Anyway, Sam ended up moving on from Naspers to blockchain.com. So they own one of the biggest, one of the most widely used Bitcoin wallets in the world. And this was summer of last year, or in the spring of last year. And they invested in us in an equity round of financing, and as well as our tokens, of course. And so we began working with them in the summer, and they went live with our validator in August. So very exciting. That was sort of the very first validator to go live with us. We've been working with a bunch of partners around that same time that some of you may actually have noticed if you've been following our blockchain. We went live with our second validator in December. Actually, we had two partners that went live in December. And so the first partner went live in December was in fact Samsung. And I think that is probably not a surprise to many of you. The context there is we've been working with Samsung, as you all know, for a long time. Originally Samsung participated in our seed round of financing back in late 2016. And Samsung Next has been great. They've been supporting us all the way through all the multiple rounds of financing and through our launch of our Theta Network and our tokens. And so we started collaborating with them back in August, September, about that same time, on launching our enterprise validator node. And it took a while. I mean, it's a large corporation, and it went live in December. In around the holiday timeframe. It was a bit of a hectic holidays that we had, but super thrilled. It's been up and running. We had no issues whatsoever, and it's continuing to be a huge huge impact for us.
Yeah, that was a busy time because, in fact, and it's not at all our plan. Just happened to work out this way. That the very next day is when Gumi Crypto's validator went live as well. That's another group that had been supporting us for a long time. They are part of the Theta token sale, and they've done numerous work with us since. And we're really excited about further developments with them because we're working closely with them about a strategy for entering the Japanese market, both in the crypto side because they're experienced there, but also more generally because Gumi Cryptos is wholly owned by Gumi, which itself is a publicly traded company over in Japan, I believe. And it has arms in a lot of things, heavy in gaming. They have some media properties, so they've got a lot of connections, a lot of great advice about our strategy for how we should start working in Japan going forward in 2020. So really excited to bring them on as a validator, deepen that relationship, and get them staking the tokens they bought in the sale. And finally,
a little bit more context on Gumi. Some of you may not know that they are actually they're a public company. They're publicly traded in Japan. And they were one of the early pioneers of mobile gaming. So they continue to be, if you look at the top 10 mobile games in Japan, it was mostly mobile, right? They don't play that much PC games. They usually have a couple of their titles in the top 10, and so they continue to be highly successful. They saw the opportunity around blockchain being strategic, and so now they're, it's great collaboration to kind of help us enter the Japanese market.
Yeah, and then lastly, of course, everyone knows Binance launched their validator node recently and gave users the opportunity to stake. So, like we were saying earlier, we've done a lot of work with Binance. They've definitely been there for us in a lot of the times where we needed a strong exchange partner. So you remember back in the when the Theta mainnet launched, that was really key to a lot of people, just because a lot of folks that were trusting their exchange to be able to make the swap from the ERC20 token to the Theta mainnet. It all worked out fine, but I think a lot of people forget just how tense that was in the weeks leading up to it. There's a lot of questions about whether they would. So they came through first. Then they've been really supportive in running the validator, hoping to expand that soon with their looking into us for Binance US, and just a really great relationship to have in the crypto space, and we're excited to keep developing that. All right, why don't we post back to a lot of the some of the live questions coming in here.
Yeah, so I think there was an earlier question about Gumi. Yeah, Gumi owning a part of Evercoin. Yeah, I believe that is true.
That's right. In fact, we spoke with the Evercoin team, Nico and them, and we're actually it talks about integrating in Evercoin as well. I wasn't clear for community how many of our users are using it, but that's great to see you guys are asking about, because we think it's a really great solution, and that's be excellent if we can provide another way for Theta users just to store their tokens there. How many tokens is Samsung staked as validator? Well, it's a couple. It's definitely over the minimum 2 million. I'd have to check on chain. You can actually see on the validators how much on the block explorer, how much. I don't know what it is offhand. Somewhere over the 2 million mark that's required currently for validators. Can we stake Theta from your wallet after mainnet 2.0? So yeah, to be clear, if you're running a Guardian node, then you can stake Theta from your Theta wallet to the Guardian node you're running. That'll be on mainnet. Seems like everything's been going pretty smoothly as far as scaling up to Guardian nodes, so should be a pretty smooth transition to mainnet in March. And then if you're running a Guardian node, you can stake from your Theta wallet, any type of Theta wallet, to that node on mainnet.
We have a question about Little Star. Pretty thrilled about this partnership. Mm-hmm. Little Star also happens to be one of our fellow portfolio companies from Sony Innovation Fund. So we launched with them, as most of you know, on their PS4 app in December, which obviously reaches tens of millions of PS4 PlayStations. Very successfully. I believe our content there is one of the more popular content among everything that they have there, largely because it is a 24/7 live stream versus a lot of the other types of sort of Hollywood type of content that they have there. Mm-hmm. So in terms of next steps, we're really excited. We just had a call with the team last week, working on a number of different initiatives with them. One area that's particularly exciting to me is that they also have an Android TV app, as well as I believe a Tizen app, and this is sort of part of our vision towards taking Theta to IoT devices in general, right, towards smart devices. Mm-hmm. And so if you think about Android TV, for example, Sony, right? So many of the Sony TVs are based on Android. Or Android TV. If an app is available on that platform, then it's basically accessible through any of these smart TVs. Yeah. And so we're collaborating with them to integrate the Theta protocol, the Theta SDK, right into that app. Mm-hmm. So that's something that we're working on as we speak. That'll be a great proof point, and if that's successful, then that opens up a whole slew of potential partners. I mean, just go down the list of the most popular Android TV, streaming and OTT types of apps. Yeah. And so that's a great step. We are continuing to discuss with Sony and with Little Star on the PS4, the device itself. Mm-hmm. And to be perfectly frank, I think the Sony is very careful about what software and what types of things is installed on the hardware and how to leverage the hardware. But I'm optimistic. I think there's some pretty interesting things that you'll see from that.
Yeah, the Android TV app is going to be a real big step, because we know it works from a technical standpoint, but it's about getting it so that we can show you have a pretty much off-the-shelf integration with Android TV, so that going to all these other Android TV apps, we can say that one, you can bypass all the concerns about whether it's going to work. We can show you a demo of it right now. And then second, just be able to cut down on the work on integration, because it's a pretty standardized framework. So if we can show that our Android TV app works integrating Theta, we can more or less guarantee that it's going to be true for any of these other TV apps. So, that's a big hurdle. It's not just getting it to work. It's about being able to make that pitch and being able to make it, concisely and easily, and not having the engineers of this app think, oh, this sounds like a big complicated thing. We're not going to invest the resources in it. It would be a lot easier for us to explain how easy it is to integrate after that.
I don't know if it's a question, but shout out to whoever turned the lights on. Josh, thank you.
Yeah.
It is getting a little bit dark here. We didn't realize that. It's 5. Was it 5? A little after 5 o'clock here in Silicon Valley.
We tried to push it a little later because we realized folks are all over the place. So I wanted to try to pick a time that I realized you can't win. Someone's always going to be like our friends in Europe. It's probably a little late for you guys, but we always try to balance it out, try to get as many people as can that watch. Yeah.
We have a number of questions around will we help Samsung streaming the 8K content, and related, and so oh, the lights went off. There you go. It's back on. And a related question around. Will Theta be on mobile devices, and how does our strategy dovetail with 5G? And so if any of you watched the Samsung Unpacked event yesterday here in San Francisco, it was actually pretty enlightening. I really enjoyed that. Yeah. I think S20 is a killer device. I mean, it's unbelievable. We're talking about 108 megapixel camera. We're talking about 8K videos. We're talking about media, really, right? If you think about what I got out of it is Samsung is really putting everything behind sort of a media strategy and a rich media strategy, right? Mm-hmm. And our entire lives, and most consumers really revolve around the camera. You taking pictures, right, and mm-hmm. taking live video, and now being able to capture video at 8K quality and be able to stream that and upload that via 5G, and I'll come back how all that ties in with Theta, mm-hmm. And be able to then push that to YouTube. I mean, that's just incredible, right? That's just unbelievable. If you remember when we wrote the white paper, Wes and I and Jay wrote the white paper 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? About now. Yeah. We talked about sort of the progression of data and live streaming going from traditional 1080 P to 4K, 8K, and VR, mm-hmm. And here we are, less than 2 years, and Samsung S20, a new device that can capture 8K, and the advent of 5G really kind of enables that, and so that's all really, really exciting. For Theta and our vision, we've always believed that 5G is a strategic driver for what we do. I mean, think about all sorts of devices, right? Samsung talks about the convergence of AI and IoT and 5G, right? And if you think about that's really a strategy for delivering, being able to deliver data and be able to do computation, at the edge. So this whole strategy around edge computing really kind of captures that convergence. I don't think Samsung talked about it in that way because it's more of a consumer kind of a mm-hmm. kind of a show, but it's edge computing, and it's from a technology standpoint. And if you think about where we are going and where Theta being sort of, this underlying infrastructure and being sort of the fabric of the internet, really the fabric for delivering, data, whether it be video or other forms of data, that's really exciting. And 5G basically enables that in a very easy and seamless way. I mean, just think about, for example, you can envision a future where you have a mobile device and you could actually be running, whether it's one of our edge cacher nodes or, mm-hmm. Just a relay node, very lightweight relay node, and you're at that point, either watching a live stream or any video, or whether maybe your phone is charging while you're asleep, mm-hmm. and 5G is enabled. up to 1 gigabit per second. That's a lot of bandwidth, right?
Yeah, and a lot of these telecoms, they've Samsung's coming at it from the hardware angle, but we've talked to some of the telecoms that actually are going to be, the pipes behind that, well, I shouldn't say it by name, but one in Korea that essentially said, we know 5G is coming, we know it's really powerful, but we don't have, the down use case is pretty obvious because everyone's going to watch more video, have more content, it's going to be higher resolution. They're going to be consuming more. So it's really obvious why you want 5G speeds down. There's not really a great or an obvious use case for 5G speeds up, except for the examples of people that are live streaming out, but it tends to be one to many. There's a lot more consumers than there are producers of that. So we think that's a great way where Theta can kind of meet that use case, where there's actually a reason for having those incredibly fast upload speeds now, because it's not just that you're downloading these 8K videos or streaming this live and it's consuming a lot. Now you've got a reason for that upload to be sharing it with all the other users around there, so that you don't have 100 people pulling 8K video at once. It's the same concept that made Theta make sense conceptually in the beginning, but it's just that much more important when you have these massive video resolutions coming through.
Right. An example of this, I think we tweeted out. We collaborate with NEC, which is a Japanese telecom company, where they featured, they utilized our 360 VR content that we did a few years ago, where we rendered, I think it was League of Legends, in a full 360 immersive experience in full VR. And what they were showing is sort of, the second half of it, so the delivery part, where you have this massive amount of data. And in VR is effectively, and this was 2-3 years back, is effectively 8K per 4 to 8K per eye. So it's a huge amount of data. So think of it as almost a 16K amount of data needs to be transferred over the same amount of time, right? And so they feature that content as a way of showcasing their 5G initiatives, being able to sort of shove that much data through the pipe and actually get it to the end device, being the VR headset. In a very efficient way. So I think a lot of these trends will continue. I think we're pretty excited. I read a report just recently saying that 2019 may have been the inflection point for VR. And I really do believe that. I think Oculus has done a hell of a job with their new device launch and in terms of user adoption. I think it's taken a little longer than we expected. I mean, we kind of started in that space back in 2016.
You were a little early there.
We were a bit early, and most people would say as an entrepreneur, you want to be early than late, right? But I think that it's sort of come sort of full circle for us, and we're pretty thrilled about that.
Yeah, the NEC thing, that was great to see them highlight us, and actually. We're talking to them about a bigger presentation at a conference coming up in Tokyo. It was supposed to be soon. Unfortunately, with the coronavirus going on, that's thrown a wrench into a lot of things, including a trip we were making throughout Asia and a meetup we were planning out there. Obviously, big problem and very sad for other reasons too. But unfortunately, that's like a lot of companies that kind of. We're in there, but as soon as possible, we'll be back over and hopefully feature that NEC conference as well in their booth. So just besides the other questions, see a lot of people thanking us, saying we're doing a great job, and I just say thank you to everyone. It's easy to forget when we're working on a lot of hard problems, and it's frustrating sometimes because it's just big problems trying to solve, and it's always really appreciated seeing the nice gestures and the thank yous from you guys. So we really appreciate it. Yeah, and I always make sure to pass it on to the engineers who are doing the real work, unlike me.
Unlike the two of us who don't do any real work.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, my two smiley faces, some of you have seen me on Telegram, and it's not because I don't want to participate in the chat, it's just because, I take a minute, get in there, and then go back to work, right? And that's what we focus on. We talked about this in last AMA, but we're a heavy technology centric company, right? Myself, Jay's background, whole engineering team is and all the PhDs we have on staff. I mean, we're very, very technology oriented. And if you think about I think there was a question at some point, it's sort of around the typical day, right? What we do. I would say that probably 70 to 80% of my day is spent on the technology side of things, whether it's on the product side and the adoption side, right? Working with potential partners, and the other half of the day sort of spent on collaborating with the product and the tech teams, the R&D teams, right, on these really hard problems that we're trying to solve. So, but yeah, thank you all for the support.
Yeah. I saw a question about the ROI for staking. So Theta and T-Fuel. So yeah, that's just as some background. So our protocol is a little different than a lot of staking protocols because you see in most of them the return you're getting for staking is more or less fixed because you're earning the same token that you're staking, which is it's a different type of model. It's there's pluses and minuses to it. So we definitely considered it before going to a 2-token system. For those of you who've been around for a long time, there was a lot of pushback on that, and a lot of good points the community made, which we considered, in that effectively, if everyone is staking, then there's essentially no earnings because you're just earning the same thing that's being inflated. There's pluses and minuses to the approach we took too, but one of the outcomes of that is you have an ROI that can change a lot just based on the market fluctuations of Theta and T-Fuel on the other side. So we've been doing a lot of thinking on this, and especially given that now that staking is going live for consumers, obviously, some people are staking Theta just because they support the project and that's it, and they're not overly concerned. But some people are going to stake just based on what a market rate is, or what they can stake this versus Tezos versus ETH 2.0 in the future, and so on. So as we get closer to mainnet launch and or mainnet 2.0 and Guardian nodes going on mainnet, we're going to take some steps and think through exactly what changes need to be made to perhaps try to guide it toward what might be a more median ROI. And that's not to say we necessarily want to peg it at something. There are still 2 tokens, and they trade at market, so there are fluctuations. It won't be fixed, but we're where it needs to be a market rate, and we're going to put in some what we think of as kind of reinforcement mechanisms to try to drive it toward what gets to a healthy staking amount, and really what's drives it to a healthy percentage of tokens staked, which is just as important to make sure that as many tokens are staked as possible, which means the network is secure as possible and harder to attack. So unfortunately, I can't go into too much detail about the specifics of it, but just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that we are paying attention to that. We're not just to have our head in the sands about what the ROI is, and we are going to address that as we move toward these actually operating on mainnet.
Perfect. There's an earlier question about, is there any possibility that Samsung Smart TV is going to use Theta protocol in 2021? That's a good question. And so, if you recall, back in October of this past year, we participated with Samsung at the SDC, right, the Samsung Developer Conference, where we showcased our protocol running natively within the TV itself. So we essentially have, and for those of you that kind of work in the technology space, you know that working with large corporations like Samsung and other sort of global 1,000 companies is fairly complex, right? Some things always take longer than, we can get stuff done here in a week, while these larger companies takes a lot longer. Yeah. So we have a dual strategy in terms of our smart TVs, and it's not just Samsung either. So, we're sort of taking a top-down and a bottoms-up approach. From a top-down approach, is sort of collaborating with the platform, with the smart TV manufacturers themselves, and embedding a protocol natively within the TV, so that while the TV is asleep, or while it's in low power mode, it can still act as a node and relay and be part of our network, and be able to earn and pay, possible payback on the cost of the smart TV within X number of months, right? And that's all really exciting. Slightly longer lead time, as you can imagine, working with the manufacturers. The bottoms-up approach is what I kind of alluded to, or I said earlier, in terms of the Android TV and the Tizen Tizen apps is a really interesting approach that we're beginning to find as we talk to potential video platforms, OTT players. Is that, look, they say we've already got a couple 100,000 or a couple million viewers on our Android TV app for our content which we're broadcasting over IP. And so, can we inject or can we add the Theta SDK to our Android TV app and leverage that? And we said, absolutely, makes perfect sense, right? We already have Android SDK for mobile apps, so we are essentially taking that a step further and adapting that for Android TV apps. And so that's something that we're working on now. It's something we haven't really talked about. I think this is kind of a little bit of a news here, but we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, because it's a way, you kind of said this, but it's a way to balance out these longer sales cycles with these large corporations where, you can make some progress and then it can be months of this going through the process, and then there might be a reorganization and then it gets picked back up. It's just everything moves very slow. So you have to keep working at it, be persistent, but it doesn't always happen overnight. In fact, it doesn't happen overnight. So this is a way to balance that out by picking off some wins with some of these smaller apps, or even some of the large brand name apps, but just limited to their Android TV app, for example, so that we can keep our eye on the prize and the big integrations, but at the same time still show momentum and gain some more adoption going forward, instead of just having all our eggs in a couple baskets and it takes 2 years to implement, and you have to be able to show progress along that way. So we're keen on that, and I think this Android TV implementation is going to be a good way to do that.
Cool. So we have a previously submitted question. Will Theta be seeking additional funding to support operation? If so, when? And so that that's a great question, and I think unlike a lot of other blockchain projects out there, our history, and most of you I think know this, is that we initially started as Sliver TV, which has now been the past month been renamed to Theta TV, our live streaming platform. And so we were very traditionally venture funded, right, where we raised 17 million in our seed and Series A, which included Samsung and Sony and a number of other media entertainment investors. And so because we came from sort of the traditional equity finance type of company, and we did, of course, our private token sale, we have a hybrid model, which is really interesting, and leaves us with a lot of options. We've had interest from a number of potential investors said, hey, Mitch, would you guys be interested in additional financing in terms of equity? And to be honest, we've turned most of those investments away. I mean, we're financed all the way through next year, and so we don't need to raise any more money, and so we don't have any plans to raise any further financing. We're well funded. The funding that we raised back in our private token sale, we continue to, we've obviously used some of those funds, but we continue to hold on to a lot of those Ether and Bitcoin and everything else that we had. Yeah, we were fortunate in that, because we were pretty well funded to begin with. While we did raise a significant amount in BTC and ETH, unlike a lot of products that unfortunately got caught in a bit of a crunch when the price of those went down, we didn't have to spend that crypto, so we were not the ones fire sailing at the bottom. And hard to say what the future holds exactly, but now we feel pretty good about being able to hold on to those. And while we were pretty conservative in a lot of ways about our spending and our hiring and burn rate to make sure that we could have survived either way, now we're in a real strong position as you start to see the crypto markets recover and hopefully continue to recover through 2020. See, we have, I guess, a chat question. With all the partners queued up or when you go live, can you share who will be the first to market using the protocol? right?
Well, probably.
So let's pre-announce who it is. Oh no.
Yeah, I've said one, we don't want to pre-announce in the first place, and even if we did, I think we learned our lesson in the past where when something was pretty sure going to happen or about to, and then for whatever reason we can't announce it until later or something, and we don't want to get into that game of saying something that's not in the bag or it's not going to happen anything. So we will stick to the facts.
But maybe I'll drop a hint.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know. Are you gonna kill me over this one?
I don't know.
I'm super excited about this one.
All right.
Oh my god. Okay, guys. There's a really, really big deal we're working on. Okay, it's not done deal, but you'll find out when it goes live.
I'm gonna be the one who has to answer for this in Telegram now. All right.
But I can't say when. Could be tomorrow, could be next week, it could be next month, or at the end of this year. But
yeah. But yeah, there's definitely. I guess we could speak generally. There's definitely several that we can say will be coming soon into this year. So I don't want to say totally. We can't say anything. But we'll stay away from too many specifics just because it's not a good look for partners, and things can happen.
Guys, I want to say it. It's one word. The name of the company.
Stop,
my god.
Stop.
Okay. Let's move on.
This is why we keep Mitch off live TV, because he gets excited about everything we're working on and just can't wait till the press release. Yeah. All right. Anyway, all right. Let's see. Any other live questions? We can jump back to another one about. Here's another one from that was submitted this week, which kind of relates to staking. So I guess we can kind of do that in conjunction. The question was, how will Theta manage T-fuel inflation, and there will be anything in line with theory of EIP 1559? So I wasn't familiar with that one by name. But from looking into it, it looks like it's a programmatic way of managing fees. So it's balanced by network demand. If the demand is very high, the fees might go down. So it keeps it in some type of equilibrium. We haven't considered doing it at sort of an algorithmic level, but as of now, T-fuel inflation is governed basically by the same thing anything else is governed by. So today, by virtue of our stake by Theta Labs and going into 2020, and as Guardian nodes and more validators come online and more tokens are staked, then basically just by stake-weighted vote is how decisions will get made. Partially by us, partially by Guardian nodes, partially by the other validator nodes. And so that group come into consensus will decide where T-fuel inflation is. Now that model should work because all of us will have more or less the same incentives. We all want to see the protocol succeed, and presumably because we all have a stake in that, we'd be making good decisions for it. I don't think we'd be opposed to doing something programmatically like that. I just don't know if that's it definitely won't be the first way it's done. But as we get into that, we can basically as stakeholders, we'll all decide where inflation will be, and if the community and all the stakeholders decide that that's the way it should be, something automatic like that, maybe that's the way it goes.
Cool. This is an interesting one. There's an earlier chat question about DMCAs, copyrights. How does that kind of play within the Theta ecosystem? Any implications of that? Video sharing sites being shut down. So that's that's one that we are always very sensitive and working very closely on with our partners, particularly unannounced partners. Content rights management and IP is super critical for these platforms, as you can imagine. And the reason we started, from strategic point of view, as a project, we started with live streaming is because we don't have those issues, right? I mean, so if you think about how Theta is being used to deliver and share live stream data, is it never persists or it's never stored on any device or any node or any part of the network. it's transient, it's in memory, just think of it that way, right? It's buffered, but what kind of comes in, goes out, and there's no issue there. That is one of the things that we're working on. It is a bit challenging. We definitely admit, particularly again with a lot of these platforms that are behind paywalls, have subscription models, and so that's something that we continue to work on. Having said that, Theta as a protocol is impartial, right? So think about whatever data flows through it, we have no control over that, and we have no censorship of that. It is fully decentralized, and that's the position we'll continue to take.
Yeah, you look at the centralized CDNs. There are some cases where you see, like I think Cloudflare was in the news for censoring content of some kind, but they really try pretty hard not to. I think even to the extent they do, it's extreme cases where they don't, where they feel like they need to, whether it's very illegal. I don't mean file sharing, but extremely illegal acts or something like that they feel the need to step in. And that's sort of the tack we want to take as well. We're not looking to be the controllers of all these rights. Simply put, there's no way we can do that for all the content on the internet. It still needs to be at the level of the platform we're integrating with, or the individual user that's using Theta to push video content. It needs to be on them, and we're not going to enforce that at the protocol level. In most cases, I'm not sure how we could in the first place, since we're not actually tracking what content is on being transferred on the network, and we certainly don't have the resources to be policing every single complaint made over it.
We have another submitted question from earlier this week. When will you build a New York City branch? I'd love to be an intern in the company. That's great. Yeah, we love interns. I mean, we're thinking about interns for this upcoming summer.
Probably easier if you're on the West Coast,
right.
Here in the close to the office. As far as an internship, we are starting to hire in Korea, and hired Jane Kim, our first BD manager, over in Seoul. And continue to look at Singapore as a potential second satellite office. But as far as intern summer thing goes, I think that'd probably be here at HQ in San Jose if we were going to do something like that. But you'll be the first to know if New York seems like it's strategic enough that it'd be worth it to build out.
Yeah, unfortunately, no plans for New York for now. But speaking of locations, can everyone type into chat where y'all watching live stream from? I see someone from Austin, Texas. Hey,
great. We've both been spent a lot of time in Austin, so that's awesome. Yeah,
love the city. Although I was there quite a few years back, and I hear traffic is horrendous over there now.
Yeah.
Portugal. Wow. That's pretty far. Nice. Sweden.
Yeah.
London, Germany. Oh my God, this is like crazy. New Zealand.
Corey,
there you go.
Corey logging in from Japan. Yeah.
Japan, Corey. Hey, Corey. BC, Canada. Hey. Wow, Malaysia. Okay, it feels like maybe we picked a good time for this AMA.
Yeah. Besides screwing our European friends here, we'll do another one earlier so that you guys can tune in at prime time.
Like, wow, Mexico, good to see you all. Bahia in Brazil, right on.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah. So a couple other questions I saw, just quick answer. I saw asking about when there would be a press release about Validator. That is, as you know, we'd love to shout that from the rooftops. We're doing what we can here. Just wanted to drop some info for the community here, since it's been a long time coming, and the community is important to this project, and it's important that you're aware of what's going on with the protocol. You guys are going to be half the ones running it pretty soon, so so short answer, ASAP, but when we can. And then Ned asked about VOD support. So that's actually something we've been I think I've talked about this a little bit in Telegram, but there's this is actually something we VOD, so video on demand support for Theta protocol. This is basically the difference between live streaming and something that's pre-recorded, think Twitch live streaming versus YouTube video that's recorded and played from storage. This is actually something we learned along the way, that we kind of thought of this as this really strict dichotomy between these two things, but the reality is, we started off by doing this implementation that we called concurrent VOD, which is basically like, imagine a new TV show comes on and 10 million people are watching it at the same time. There's so many people watching at the same point in the video that it almost acts like live streaming, even if it's pulled from storage. And so we realized pretty quickly we could basically take the live streaming, the way the protocol was set up for live streaming, and just use it for those types of VOD videos. There's a couple differences, like the way that segments are chunked is different and the format's different, but besides a few technical things, it conceptually operates the same way. And we started to realize that what seems pretty obvious now is there's kind of a power law going to play where 80 or 90% of the VOD videos do have that makeup of the network, that they're being watched by a lot of people at the same time. Like a hot new video comes on, everyone shares it, watches it within the same day, and then doesn't watch it again. That's not all of video, of course, but it's a huge chunk of it. So we actually are, while we do want full VOD support, eventually for the long tail, we realize the lion's share of the views, and therefore the data produced, and therefore the demand for Theta Network and what we can offload is from these concurrent VOD videos. So we're pivoting a little bit to focus more on how can we make that concurrent VOD, it's working title, maybe we'll come up with a catchier name, but make that work as good as possible, instead of taking on what could be or instead of making a priority what could be a huge undertaking to get decentralized storage to work on that, when it's only for maybe it's 15% of the actual demand.
That's right. So it's that 90-10 strategy, right? How do we solve the 90% of the problem by getting a solution out there quickly and efficiently? And as we talk to some of our partners that we're collaborating with, just kind of emphasize that point, right? I mean, it's that first page, it's everything above the fold that gets 80-90% of the views. It's a featured video. It's that first thing that you see on Netflix when you launch Netflix, right? I mean, most people watch those particular pieces, and so it's a whole strategy of how we can enable that to be much more efficient. I think that's going to be our first starting point.
Yeah. Okay, why don't we take another, let's see, there's a couple more from this week that would be interesting to go for until some people get some more questions in chat here. A user asked, how fragile is the Theta network to a 51% attack? So this is a little technical on the blockchain side for those who aren't familiar. That is there an entity or small group of people that own over 50% combined? So short answer is no, although I suppose if you could depend on how you define your group. If all the Guardian nodes collectively, I think, have 30% of the network, maybe something close to it, or maybe a little more. Theta Labs has about 30%. A lot of DCM and Danhua DHVC have big chunks. So, it's pretty diverse in my mind. I don't think there's anyone among that group that, if you put them together, have a reason to or would ever be looking at a 51% attack. I mean, between us as a U.S. company and the private token sale investors who are primarily U.S.-based media companies or venture capital firms, let's just say Sony is conservative enough in their operations that I don't think they'll be participating in a 51% attack. But that said, we don't like to build a protocol based on what we hope might not happen. So that's why one of the key advantages of moving to proof of stake is that to actually acquire that 51%, instead of just getting a lot of hash rate flipped from another blockchain, it would mean buying up 51% of the tokens out there, or the whole protocol. And you can imagine that would get real expensive real quick. So that's kind of the natural defense against someone doing that, is that it would get more and more expensive as they tried to do it, and especially if, imagine there's some investor group out there that wanted to get 51% of the network. You can imagine both us and anyone around there would be holding on to our tokens tightly and just making it more and more expensive. So it'd be a very, I think, foolish thing to do to try to 51% attack it. Yeah.
Cool. I think we're gonna keep this an hour. Is that our plan today?
Yeah. Well, we can give it a couple extra minutes since we started late. But,
so we have some additional questions coming in. Are you guys excited about all of Samsung's partners? Yeah. So this is touched on this a little bit at the very beginning of our live stream here. At the Unpacked event yesterday, if you just look at the partners that Samsung featured on stage, it was Netflix,
Google,
mm-hmm. YouTube, right? And I'm missing one. What am I missing? Point being that you effectively have one of the biggest, mobile device manufacturers out there at Samsung, bringing in partners which are all in the media space, right? There's no doubt. We're talking about Netflix, we're talking about YouTube, we're talking about 8K video sharing, and that, when I watched that, it was like, holy smokes! I mean, this totally reinforces the strategy that we're on, that we're pursuing. And it reinforces the point that we are at the right place, the right time. The market, I think we're at the inflection point of a massive, massive growth, and mobile devices and 5G and all these different pieces coming together. I mean, if we think about video as and data as a percentage of total data that flows through the internet, I think we're at the beginning. I mean, we're beginning the hockey stick, and I think the next 5-10 years, it's going to be even more exciting. And so, I'll be disappointed if Theta wasn't a big piece of that, 5 years from now.
Yeah. Hey, so Long in the chat asked if there's any meetups coming up. So, yeah, like I said, we were excited to have one in Seoul coming up until we had to postpone our trip here because of the issues with the virus, unfortunately. But we will be back. Seoul is probably a prime candidate for one. Potentially Tokyo, if there's something going around the conference that if we can do something with NEC. And then I don't know if you're a Guardian Node alum, but there's been a lot of talk of doing an unofficial Guardian Node meetup somewhere in the U.S. or somewhere it's easy for a lot of people to get to. If you guys arrange it, I will come and make sure to represent Theta on that. And if you guys set a community meetup, then absolutely one or both of us or someone from the team will be there with you guys.
Well, if it's somewhere warm, then chances of me being there would be a lot higher.
Yeah. It'll have to be somewhere fun for Mitch to go, but I'll get dragged there even if someone decides to do Minneapolis in the winter or something like that. Yeah.
Thank you, David. Theta. You guys are awesome. I mean, we wouldn't be here without all of your support. We started out 2 years ago, a little bit less than 2 years ago, and from scratch. We had no community, and today we look at our Telegram or Twitter and all of our social channels, and I think doing more of a live sort of events where get-togethers in different cities. I think that's going to be our next big step. I mean, that makes I'd be excited to get out there and grab a drink with you guys and kind of talk about whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, it's the only thing. It's been tough because it's a great thing that the Theta community is all over the world, but unfortunately it means not everyone's down the street from us. But like I said, if there's a Theta meetup, if it's organized, we will be there. We'll get to where we need to be. Yeah.
Meet up in Vegas. Just let me know when.
Yeah.
Hop on a flight. We'll be there tonight.
That will be Vegas will be an easy sell for Mitch. Yeah. Let's ask, any thoughts on SpaceX's coming Starlink internet service and their ability to stream Theta content as well as restreamers themselves for Netflix? Wow, I don't know how Starlink works, so I can't answer that from a technical standpoint at all. I will say if there's any way that Theta can somehow be used to transfer data between satellites, then on principle alone, I'm on board, but I'd have to learn a little bit more about it to know the mechanics of that and see if that actually would work.
SpaceX, NASA, we're already collaborating with NASA, so this
Yeah,
is just
that's
one
right.
step away for
National
sure.
Foot.
Maybe we set up some nodes in, on the moon. It would be literally Theta on the moon. Theta to the moon.
Yeah. Oh, big dog, point taken. We will not make that same mistake. We did see that, and that is unfortunate. Bad look.
A lot of just questions, comments about our price. That's usually something we don't talk about.
Yeah.
For a bunch of different reasons. We continue to be very very careful around the SEC and other regulatory bodies. And certainly. And since we haven't had any issues with any of them, we plan to stay that way.
Yeah, we think we've done things the proper way so far. So, despite that being frustrating sometimes to folks, we think we'll stick to the playbook we've had since it's done well for us so far. And just more generally, we want our team to be focused on building and for the long term. And while the economics of the protocol are important, it is definitely not, in our opinion, the right mindset to be making short-term decisions based on those fluctuations. Any more than you wouldn't want a CEO of a Fortune 500 company making snap decisions because quarterly earnings are coming up. That's just not a good way to operate, and not how we like to do it.
How often do you lean on your advisory team? It kind of depends, and I don't think any CEO or founder would say that they talk to advisors every day, right? Certainly that's sort of not their role, and that would be misleading. But give you an example, right? So Cliff has been a long time. Cliff, the CEO of G Fuel, has been a long time advisor to us. In this space, and just talked to him yesterday, and you know what? I believe he's streaming right now on Theta TV. He's live streaming from his I don't know if it's his new home. Is it a new home? His new wine cellar. He's live streaming from his wine cellar. He's playing Fortnite. Last time I checked, and I told him not to do it at this time because be competing for viewers with us. Do we have more viewers than he does right now? I know. Okay, how many concurrences does Cliff have over there? 125. Oh, we're like 15 people short.
Well, sounds like he's not a bad live streaming from his wine cellar. Sounds like advisor is a good place to have.
No, I think he's doing quite well. Yeah. So it's been terrific working with our advisors.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we can take one more from the week and wrap up any other live questions from the chat. So this is kind of related to what we were talking about, I guess. What is the future of T-Fuel versus Theta in terms of adoption? If you follow the protocol closely, this might be, you might already know this, but it's really two different kind of groups of users that are using it, because T-Fuel is what the end user earns, and it's more of a consumer facing, where they earn for their contributions, they can spend it in various ways or use it for different things, donate to streamers, or different things depending on how a platform implements the protocol. Whereas Theta, just because it has a different function and it's a little more staking and running a node is a lot more complicated to the average user, it's just a different demographic and a different group of users that are going to adopt that. So I don't know if I would say versus each other like one or more than the other. They have different purposes, so the adoption is going to look different in different ways. Hopefully the end goal of that is a lot of users, consumers earning T-Fuel and thinking it's something valuable for them and spending it and kind of engaging in that loop. And a lot of crypto native folks that want to stake Theta and be part of the protocol and secure it.
Great. Well, I think with that, we're going to wrap it up. Super exciting. I still have 100 people watching us now, 107.
Yeah.
Just jumped by a few. Typically AMAs, it kind of drops off towards the end. So I guess we'll take that as a positive note that we didn't bore you guys to death.
Right.
Thank you all. And,
appreciate
see you guys in the social channels.
Yeah, appreciate the continued support. And we'll be back soon with another AMA. We like to do these pretty regularly, especially when there's new things to talk about, like after there's a big new change to the protocol or a new partner. So we'll definitely be back with folks. And yeah, thanks again for all your support.
Let's send some viewers over to Cliff.
Yeah,
That's right. And everyone, Cliff is still streaming over there, so join him and watch one of our favorite advisors play some Fortnite. All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. We off?